Okay. Upcoming class tuning in patch 9.2.5. Tank threat buffs, beast mastery, windwalker, and arms buffs. Blizzard has posted upcoming class tuning coming in patch 9.2.5, which includes tank threat buffs, as well as tuning to many specs, including BM and arms warrior buffs. Blizzard, we've now finalized a series of class tuning and PvP adjustments in the 9.2.5 update. The following changes will be included in 9.2.5 next week during maintenance, and you'll see them in the patch notes. All classes now generate more threat within tank spec. Developers notes, we've heard a lot of feedback about threat loss from the community and our teammates since the start of the season. Our design intent is that a tank who is actively directing their damage rotation at an enemy should be able to maintain threat on that enemy, but simple area of effect spells like Consecrate and Death and Decay alone should not be sufficient, of course. If you put down only D&D and you AFK, you should not hold threat off people. That's lame. We've analyzed the situation and feel that a small adjustment to tank threat modifier should help maintain that balance for the remainder of the expansion. Good. This needs to happen, because there are some tanks that play perfectly. They have all their cooldowns up, they play properly, and they're good at the game, and there's absolutely nothing they can do to hold off certain classes in the game. And the only way that it's not as bad of a problem is because MD and Trix existed. If MD and Trix did not exist and those two classes were not very popular in dungeons right now, it would be a fucking war zone. Like, it would be so not fun. Yeah, this needs to happen. It is some classes better than others. Like for example, DHs have Vengeance Demon Hunters have excellent snap threat. Blood DKs do not. Bears do not. You can blood boil twice and get fucking owned. Not to mention there's usually more setup than that. I would say it's certain abilities, but this needed to change because I agree that if a tank is playing poorly, like if a tank goes in with no damage, or like, I feel like it's two different classifications, because there's definitely people complaining who have no idea how to play the game, are spec'd blood, go into a pack, right? Just like this. They put down D&D. They take 2 seconds to figure out which ad they want to manually taunt, and then they're like, oh, and then like everyone's dead, right? And that, you don't need to buff threat for that person. That person doesn't need a threat buff. They need Jesus, right? But there are players who are extremely good at the game, and they are doing literally everything they can possibly do in a situation to hold off, and they lose threat. That's wrong. That should never happen. That is a mistake on design. Hopefully that never happens again in the history of WoW. Please don't do it. And certain tanks need it more than others. And maybe that should be a sign to you, Blizzard, that if tanks AoE is so, not even just snap threat, just their AoE in general is more universal in dungeons, it kind of solves a few problems, and threat is one of them. BM, all damage buffed by 4%. Beast Cleave now causes your pet to strike other targets for 100% of your pet's damage, was 90%. Let's look at young statistics for this. BM Hunter is fine. But I guess it looks like these are more AoE targeted. What does BM Hunter AoE look like? What's a good AoE boss? Prototype? Prototype's a bad example. BM probably does a little bit better than it appears here. It's just that every good player that plays a hunter will play marksman or survival, because it's just way better. So like, why would you play this? That's like another weird thing with like Skolex. Like Windwalker monks have a very few amount of players in their community that are like Windwalker monk one tricks, and they actually shred. You guys probably know the name of a few of them. They do have a couple of shredders that always play Windwalker. Generally speaking, classes like this that are at the bottom are usually farther towards the bottom than you'd expect. And it's because once a class starts to lose its favor in a raid, the better players who play this game also stop playing them, which also reduces their bar by a bit. Like the 95th percentile of Windwalker Monk and the 95th or higher percentile of a more popular class, where a lot of the Fodom rerollers, melee players specifically, will play them, it shifts the bar a little in that direction. Those two things are not, the player skill of those two things are not the same. So Windwalker is probably, because of this, and this is, you could apply this to other classes as well, is probably slightly higher. Let's see, Mage, Arcane missiles increased by 8%. Okay, this was cool. Sad thing, so Preheat's cat died, and I know Preheat really well personally. He fucking loved that cat. So that was like some sad news yesterday, but after he posted that, he had been posting PS1 Hagrid pictures for like 2 months, and if you guys probably saw me retweet it. It was for a month, because they were really fucking funny. I actually thought it was like one of the better bits on Twitter, but he posted that Arcane needed buffs, so sad day for Preet all around, but he got it. PS1 Hagrid accomplished his goal. I actually need to read the developer's notes because they've actually been better about posting good ones from this. BM has not received as much of an AoE benefit from its set bonus as other specs and has fallen behind. We're increasing damage as our pets and beast cleave damage transfer to help their overall performance. Sure. Isn't this pretty minor though? Like 4% is 4%, but like isn't beast cleave 100% of your, isn't that like, I mean, it's like pretty minor buff, right? Arcane. We feel that Arcane's single target damage would benefit from an increase, but also want to offer some dispel protection for one of their critical rotational buffs in clear casting. This is a change that we'll evaluate further going into Dragonflight, as we want magical buffs like these to be dispellable. In this case, we feel there is necessary to help this spec in the short term. Arcane's 6% single target buff. Let's consult the statistics. It needs a little bit of a buff. Amen. Let's see. Frost. Conduit reduced in PvP. Don't care. Mistweaver. Reduced cooldown on Zen Focus T to 30 seconds was 45. Mistweavers are having a difficult time responding to burst damage reliably as they regularly have to open their primary school in order to catch up. Giving them more access to an interrupt protection is intended to let them respond to burst damage more reliably. It's a PvP change? Oh, lit. They're going to mention disc down here. Let's get a look at the old healing meters. Understand that all bosses is not the best thing to look at, but let's just 95th percentile. How do I feel about this? I mean, we were saying for years that Resto Druid, Mistweaver, and Holy Priest, classes without Spirit Link, Aura Mastery, and Barrier, because those are not counted on healing logs, and oh my god, if they were, just like AMZ shows as an absorb, if those numbers showed up on healing meters and in logs as how much damage they prevented as healing, Blizzard would have a much easier time balancing this game. This needed to happen for a long time, and this is like kind of what it looks like late in farm. Yeah, they made some of these specs really, really good, and that's kind of what they needed to do. But even then, in progression, your comp was, you know, still had a Holy Paladin. Look where Holy Paladin is right now. This is why Holy Paladins, and this sucks for Holy Paladin mains unless they redesign them, why Holy Paladins can never be this, and they have before. Because Holy Paladins are down here, and no good guild would really even think about dropping a Paladin out of their healing roster for a new raid if it came out right now. They just heal differently than other classes do. They bring a raid buff. Obviously, you need to have one Paladin. But I'm saying, like, outside of them being that raid buff, you would still bring them in a lot of fights. If you ask your healers, like, you know, what would tank healing look like on this fight without a Paladin? Or how would this fight feel without Paladin? Can we get in some more throughput? And they'd be like, it'd be much worse. Right? Because they heal some things really well, specifically like targeted healing and tank stuff. It's really good. So, and they have a DR cooldown, and they bring a raid buff. So, like, Holy Paladins are still in a good spot. Holy Paladin mains probably think they need to be buffed. They probably could be buffed a little bit. But I really think if this is a list you're looking at for pure throughput, this is exactly what it needs to look like. Maybe Resto Druid's a little too high. But, like, Resto Druid, Mistweaver right here. Holy Priest right behind it. Because while Holy Priest does not have Barrier, Spirit Link, or AM, it does have whatever that fucking cooldown is that reduces your personals, which is, like, sometimes it's like turbo broken. It's like insanely fucking good. Like, oh my god, was that fucking insane on Rygolon. Yeah, Symbol of Hope. That's like, in some cases, is comparable to some other cooldowns. This is kind of what it should look like. Like I said, a Resto Shaman main, a Disc Priest main, and other classes won't exactly agree with it, but from a position where you create a healer comp, you know, based on the scenario, there is a scenario right now where you would use any of these healers in progression, and they can do something another healer cannot. And there is a situation where you would stack multiple of each of these classes, even Resto Shaman, right? Disc, you saw that on Lords of Dread. You just needed quite enough burst healing, and Barrier was insane, but you didn't see it a ton outside of that, right? Holy Paladin ran as a 2 of on Lords of Dread, and I think maybe one other fight. You know, Holy Priest you saw featured in this patch. And then you saw some guilds at the top running a 1 of a throughput healer being either a Mistweaver or a Resto. I don't think Mistweaver really became prominent until like Double Legendary, and until they fixed a bug in the middle of progression. But Resto Druid, like, the whole time was, like, really, really solid. Mistweaver was really solid. I again, if you take, like, biased main opinions out of this, this is the best healer balance has been in a long time, and this is pretty close to what this should look like. So, anyways, back to these changes. Windwalker, rising sun kick damage increased by 20%. This change does not apply to PvP. Fist of Fury damage to primary target increased by 20%. I think this should actually be increased by more than this in the future. Blizzard, pay attention to this. After this current tier set goes away, I don't think you could have actually buffed fists by more than 20% to primary because it's already scaling with tier. But in the like after that tier goes away, next expansion, buff this by more. One of the worst things you've done this expansion to Windwalker is make it so you feel like Fists of Fury can be canceled or is important. Generally speaking, in class design, the thing that Fists of Fury is, which is your rotational ability with the longest cooldown, costs the most chi, and requires you to channel it, that ability has to hit hard and feel good. And there's been multiple times this expansion where it is correct to press it and then cancel it just to get it on cooldown to be able to use another ability. That's fucking dog shit. That's bad. That can never be in the game. Fist of Fury has to roast. And the only reason I'm actually focusing on part of their rotational mechanics for this is because I've seen it happen to other classes in the game where their focus starts to be the wrong thing. Take Feral Druids, for example. In Cataclysm and in Mists of Pandaria were great dot melee. They weren't the cookie cutter melee with just generators and finishers. They had like really unique skill sets. They were really good at multi-dotting, and they provided like situations that other melees could not. And then Feral Druids just became a watered down shitty assassination rogue. And I don't mean by their tuning, I mean by their usability. They're assassination rogues without cloak. Rip is Rupture and Rake is Garrote. And then you just spam Ferocious Bite the same way you would in Venom. You had a completely unique class and you turned it into a shittier assassination rogue for absolutely no reason. And all of that came from the fundamental misunderstanding of what should be doing the damage for that class, and you chose Ferocious Bite instead of their dots. That's kind of what you're doing with Fist of Fury. This class, this for Windwalker's best design in historically and just in general has to be Fist of Fury being a button you press, and when it's up, you're fucking slamming. Blackout Kick damage increased by 20%. Tiger Palm, Fist of the White Tiger. So they basically just buffed a lot of their single target stuff. Pretty huge changes. Does any Windwalker Super Genius in a raid, not in Mythic Plus, has anyone calculated how much of a single target increase this is for the build they play now? Do they play Necro in raid or Kyrian? Discord says it's around 12%, and they play Kyrian single target. Necro and Kyrian is almost equal. Wouldn't this specifically make Kyrian... this is total Feely crafting, by the way. I've never thought about this once until right now. Wouldn't this technically buff Kyrian by more than Necro? Because if I'm thinking of like a fat-ass fucking Weapons of Order opener, you're hitting a lot of these buttons that just got buffed by 20% a lot more than you are as Necro. Oh, Necro gets closer with these buffs. That's actually really surprising. Okay. I don't know if you just made that up. Only one person said that, but that's actually very surprising to me. I would have guessed the opposite. It made Necro better. I don't know why, but 200 DPS was the gap before. Now it's like 80. Weird. Necro is easier and you can cast Fist of Fury. Oh, I see. I love Kyrian. By the way, I know people dislike Weapons of Order. Or actually, I don't know if people dislike Weapons of Order. But I think Weapons of Order is actually one of the coolest things they've added. Like, it's not Weapons of Order's fault that you cancel fists. Well, it kind of is. But, like, you could have it where you don't cancel fists. And I know there's, like, a situation in Lust where you don't. But... like, Weapons of Order is actually, like... doing a Weapons of Order opener is one of the most fun things I've done in WoW and Shadowlands. I think it's actually insane. I really hope of all of the specs and abilities and talents and things that are going to transfer from this expansion to Dragonflight, I really hope that Weapons of Order is one of them. I'm going to guess they're going to pick one per class. Moonkin, we already know, is keeping Convoke. I really doubt they keep Venthyr, Necro, or Kyrian. DK we know is keeping A-Bomb's Limb. You know, I really doubt they're going to keep Death's Due or anything. It looks like they probably have enough room in that talent tree to keep like one. And I really hope that one thing is Weapons of Order. I honestly, yeah, Divine Toll. Yeah, I bet it's Divine Toll for Paladin. I really highly doubt. Oh my God, please do not keep Ashen in the game. I like Ashen as a raid leader because I think like we were one of the first people on Ashen, but Divine Toll just makes Paladins better. It's just a better class with Divine Toll. And please don't keep Necro. The main reason I haven't geared my Windwalker until today, which by the way, we are going to gear my Windwalker today right after this, is I think Necro is like super not fun. Putting down Bone Dust Brew and ignoring your Mastery and just spamming Spinning Crane Kick is lame as fuck. Don't care if it does huge damage. Super dog shit. Not fun. Don't do that. Don't ever design that again. So right now, Windwalkers are... Skull-X is probably the best boss to look at, although it's not great. They're the lowest. They're sitting at 12.3k. If you buff them by 12%, you know, they're gaining, what, roughly 1.4k DPS? Is that right? 1.3k? Oh, is it 1500? So they'll be at 13.3, which will put them right up there to here. It's hard for them to be much higher than that. You could argue they could put them middle of the pack, but Windwalker cranks so much. Like Windwalker is going to be broken in Mythic Plus. I mean, it's already meta. It's going, I mean, oh my God, is it going to be good? Like, I think it's hard for them to buff them by more than that, honestly. However, I think Windwalker was probably going to be completely unused in Season 4, even in some fights that they were previously insanely good for, like Soul Render and Stone Legion Generals in previous raids. I thought that they were actually tuned so poorly that you would just not use them. Windwalker is going to be Gigabyss for a few fights in the next raid with those changes. How many times has Windwalker been buffed this patch? A few times. They've had to do this before. In fact, I predicted incorrectly that Windwalker was so low going into this patch that they would be forced to buff them and they would probably overdo it. Historical reason is they literally did this before Antorus the Burning Throne, and Windwalker was the best DPS in the game by far. And I thought they would do that. It looks like they're just going to do that same buff. It's just going to be for Season 4, but it's not going to be close to enough. The buff that they did to Antorus was like the Windwalkers were like this, but then they gained a really good tier bonus and they buffed them by so much all at one time that they made them the top. They shot from down here to above the top. They were the #1 single target, and obviously you know what kind of cleave they can do and always have been able to do so. Why does Arcane exist if it's not even better on single target than Fire? Well, Arcane can do something Fire can't. Arcane can like build up a bunch of stacks and like one-shot some shit. For example, Arcane is a fantastic Anduin fight. I'm sure after the buffs, probably a lot more people on Anduin have been playing Fire, but like, Arcane here's why Arcane exists, because there's a fight archetype where it's just better than other specs of Mage. As far as the argument of PvP or Mythic Plus, I have none, but for Raid, there's scenarios where Arcane is good. That's why. Let's see what else they changed. Really happy to see that. I am going to gear my monk today because I love playing Windwalker Monk, and I haven't played it because honestly, you can make the argument that like you always play classes because they're super fun. I know I do, but I'm not gonna lie, dude. Doing big damn is fun. And playing your class at a really high level and having a lot of gear and showing up to a raid and doing this damage for and you're doing just as well as someone up here, that makes something less fun. To me, probably if you want to admit it, a lot of people like having your class be absolutely dog shit is not fun. So they should probably, I don't know if they should buff it again. It's kind of hard to see what they're going to be like in Mythic Plus next patch or on Tuesday and say that that class needs another buff. I think they're going to be doing some pretty nasty shit in Mythic Plus. Disc, Blaze of Light, increased damage. I don't know what that means. Power Word Shield Absorb amount increased by 10% in PvP. Fixed a bug that reduced the value of Power Word Shield crits in PvP. This looks like PvP based. I don't care enough about this. But hold up, before the Priest thing, you can still do this for Season 4, but just know in Dragonflight Alpha, this needs to happen, but hopefully before then. Shadow Priest is a sad sack of shit. It's been good a few times in this expansion, but similar to Feral Druid, in the past, we've already made this example, have removed what that class is good at and tried to fit it into like just a more basic thing, made its multi-dots not matter, although you've buffed it throughout the expansion. It's such a poorly designed class, and here's why it feels bad, is because it very recently has felt great, like in a recent expansion, and to see it be this much worse, and really not, it doesn't have a thing. Like, classes have a thing. Like, Moonkins are not by meters great right now, but because of what they bring to a raid and what they can do with Starfall specifically, gives them a spot to be considered always. Shadow Priest, this whole expansion, we have had great Shadow Priest players. Like, we had Rivens this raid. You guys haven't seen him play a lot. That guy's fucking cracked. He's really good. Kevin has played Shadow Priest multiple times this expansion. Kevin's really good at Priest. We have tried to play Priest, and you just can't, man. Like, they're just classes that just gap Priest, and it has nothing to do with their damage. Their damage has never been good enough to make up for it, and you all know the reality, by the way. If Shadow Priests were at a point where they would be good enough to be brought to a raid, like being near the top, like, hey, where they are right now, no consideration. Think about that. That's when something is wrong. Look at that class. Shadow Priest is not good enough. Make it better. Moving on. Rogues. Outlaw. Similar damage to Windwalker. Got buffed. Cool. Did James pog about this, or did he not pog? Call him. Let me see what he's doing. All right, I'm just going to call him and see what he says. Don't you just love randomly calling people? Hey, bud. Guys, I'm in call with James, but he hasn't talked yet. I can't hear you if you're talking. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm on my phone and I can't talk for some reason. Bro, just unmute it. Hey, dude, what's up?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I see how it works.
Wait, hold up. You said it's push to talk and there's no push on your phone. There's 100% push to talk on your phone.
Well, yeah, but I didn't realize the thing that says push to talk is my push to talk button. Like I thought it was just telling me I was on push to talk mode and I didn't have a button for it.
So I was asking my chat. I was like reading through the nerfs that came out yesterday in buffs, and I came across the outlaw one, and I wanted to know if that made you pog or not.
So it's still not quite pog. Like at first, I thought it was really pog, but it's actually like not that pog. So basically, it's like about a 3% buff in single target, and it's like about a 7% buff in AoE. So long story short, even though it's capped at 5 targets, it's still worse than sub rogue or assassination rogue in literally like every single way. But it's better than nothing.
Okay, fuck yeah. All right, that's all I needed. Yo, did you lift any big things and pick them up and put them back down again today?
Not today actually.
Today's like a gig a day off. You don't even work out.
Oh yeah, I'm like doing nothing today.
Well, that's good. I need to do that more often. All right, amen, dude. Very
All
good.
right.
See you later.
All right, bye.
Guys, so the combat buffs were bad and they're not good enough. And James is just to make this clear, James was not pogging about this. Shaman, Healing Stream Totem, buffed in PvP, don't care. This is all PvP, don't care. Ritual of Ruin 2-piece now lasts 30 seconds. Oh, is this a PvE change? It's more PvP, kind of, a little bit of PvE. All right, hell yeah. Arms, buff Mortal Strike, buff Overpower in PvE only. Execute and Condemn increased by 15. Ooh. This also affects Prot Warriors. Wow. Wait, they actually didn't buff Prot? Dude, I think Prot Warrior is turbo ass. That's like when we went into this raid, I could see a scenario where you would play all of the tank specs except Warrior, all 5, and it would make sense. And there was no world where you would play Prot Warrior. It's so bad. Actually, that's not true. If you are lusted in Execute and don't have to tank, I'm pretty sure even before these buffs, Prot Warrior outdamaged every other tank. But also, I don't know if you guys have done Mythic Jailer, but imagine on progression bringing a Prot Warrior to deal with that tank debuff in P2. If you've tanked that fight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know it's possible with Prot Warrior, but how many times you would have fucking wiped to that with progression gear? Oh my god, you would have fucking just died. You would have actually died. You would last stand and shield wall and get an external for 1 and just die to the next one. Or you would just get healed, which like no other tank has to do. Okay. Anyways, moving on. So buffed arms lit. Nerfed Fury in PvP. Yes. Items, Gladiator's Distinction, set bonus buffed. PvP set bonus buffed, and Cosmic Gladiator's Echoing Resolve no longer triggers from or provides immunity to interrupt effects. The tooltip for this will be updated in a future patch. While the tooltip explicitly mentions interrupts, we've heard the feedback loud and clear that this trinket is removing counterplay that players enjoy. We'll fix the tooltip in a future hotfix. Fuck yeah. Every PvPer was complaining about this, so. Isn't Season 4 going to be easy with so many nerfs? Well, you have to keep in mind that I don't know exactly what versions of the boss they're going to put forth in Season 4. But obviously they're going to tune it for releasing higher level gear, so they're obviously going to retune the raids for having a higher eye level, obviously. But will a lot of the boss nerfs stay in? I imagine they will. Because they're going to be adding like affix style shit on top of it, and it being tuned harder because it's new content. But also I think it's very important that, and from seeing the amount of questions people have asked about this, it's very important to go over again that I don't think Blizzard, not only do I don't think, Blizzard has clearly stated this is not a like competitive thing. And if you think about it, if they make these raids, each of the 3 raids as hard as they normally are with these affixes and like removing all the nerfs they made or something, forget about the world first competitors, because often you guys do, and you guys are thinking about what we will do. What's likely is all those guilds will go in there and maybe less than a day or maybe a little bit over a day total. Every guild will that's like done these bosses, the whole expansion, top 5 world guilds, like they're gonna probably own the raid. But the thing is they have to for anyone else to have a realistic chance of actually completing them within the week's time frame. Even guilds that have cleared it when they cutting edge back in the day. What's going to happen is like on the first Tuesday, let's just say Castle Nathria comes out. And then the next Tuesday, you cannot do Castle Nathria for another 2 weeks after that next Tuesday. It's actually going to be, let's just make it up, Sepulcher the next week. And then after that, it's Sanctum. And then it's Castle Nathria again. Right, they don't want people to be like going back and forth between progressing like 3 raids. I think the point is you go in and get the bigger loot. I don't think the point is for it to be a like extreme challenge. That being said, I mean, I would kind of like it. Honestly, the way we're viewing Season 4, obviously, if it's like cleared really fast and like NA gets an extra reset, no one at like obviously should or would care about who clears it first situation, right? Especially if it's a 1 week thing, pretty much always. What it is more is, at least for us, it's an opportunity to test our new systems we have in place. We've changed a lot since the last raid. We've onboarded a ton of new people, probably 5 people, like certainly a lot of people from Pieces. Like we have Pieces ex-GM and raid leader, a couple of their officers, their weak aura person, a couple of their raiders, right? So like for us, it's like we've implemented a lot of new things to get better, and there's actually very rarely times that don't matter where you can put yourself in a realistic progression environment to actually test those things and improve and get better. And it's also it is actually not of one of the few, it's the literal only opportunity in the last like 6 years that I've been rating at a high level where you actually have a chance to see some of your new players and how they will perform without actually doing progression. See, WoW rating is one of these really weird like esports where it's really strange because you want to develop talent, but you're really scared to do it because anytime you're giving someone the experience they need to actually be good at this, you're also competing for world first for one of the 2 times in a year usually you get to do that at the same time. So it's a massive risk to do that, right? Season 4 is one of the few times where you just don't really pay attention to anything else, don't look at your stream chats, treat this like real progression, whether it's easy or hard, and actually improve, test your new, like a lot of our our veteran players, some of them probably won't play. Like we're going to play, a lot of our newer players to get as much information and experience on them as possible and try to do it as fast as we can just for the sake of improving, right? That's basically how we're treating Season 4. And as far as my actual hunch, I don't think it's going to be like super hard. Like if it's going to take us or Echo or any other guild like 3 or 4 full days of progression to kill these bosses, it would honestly blow my mind. And I would think it'd be bad for the game, even though that would be good for me because that would make our guild be able to improve more. It'd be more fun. It'd be more challenging. But I think if that's what it would take for us to do that on content we already know how to do the bosses, dude, the community would fucking hate that shit. It would be the most hated thing of all time. Because, like, you only see these raids for a week at a time. Like, no one wants to do that shit, I won't try to guess how long it'll take to be cleared, I guess. I really doubt guilds who got cutting edge in Castle Nathria, if they raid 2 or 3 nights a week, I think it would be really unlikely for Blizzard to design these raids to where those guilds could not clear it in their 3 raid nights in that week, seeing it for the first time in, like, 8 months. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. And I also don't think they're going to revert these nerfs at all. Like, I'm positive that I'm not positive, but I'm like pretty sure that Sepulcher, like Halandris in Season 4 is going to have the like nerfed bombs. Because like why the fuck would they do that? If you think about what the season is supposed to give us a new season and like stuff to bide our time until the expansion, and for people to like who are maybe playing the game later in the expansion, because usually that's pretty smart, the game gets a lot better, to like actually see the raids they didn't do, or to like go back with like see raids with a twist. It's not to like I said, they've even vocally said they don't want it to be like this big competitive thing. So yeah, I don't see them undoing nerfs. That's huge. That's a huge effort. Yeah, there's no fucking way, man. It'll be nice farming Sylvanas Dagger once every 3 weeks. Well, they have a system for that. Another big thing of what Season 4 is Season 4 is a big like petri dish for them. They're just testing shit. Like they're testing a like guaranteed loot system in raids that could definitely apply to any new expansion or patch. And they've said they're going to see how that works and try to do it in the future, because clearly right now there's an issue with targeting loot in raids. And I'm sure Mythic Plus. They're also they're testing a bunch of different shit, right? So like one of the things they're doing is like, yeah, if you, I think it's starting like week 2 or 3 or something, you'll be able to just buy basically any piece you want from the raid. And for rogues, maybe that's daggers or whatever, right? For Mythic Plus players, it's actually a really fun season in terms of gearing. I mean, I wouldn't even say for Mythic Plus, but I would say for pretty much anyone in PvE, I think Season 4 is one of the like coolest ideas they've had in a long time. I actually don't think they're getting enough credit for it. I think they'll get credit for it once it comes out. I just think it's a really good idea. I think they could do this at the end of every expansion. If you cut every end of expansion super giga long patch in half, and even if it's shorter than a normal one for like Sepulcher or for Nihilotha or for Argus or whatever, and you did this every single time, it would just be good. Like it would just be way better than farming that season for an extra couple months. You know what I mean? It's just better. It's a really good idea.